What if the universe consisted not only of light and matter but also of a dark counterworld that we could never see directly? The theory of dark photons posits exactly that. Invisible particles that leave traces at the threshold between dark and visible matter and could now open the door to a creative parallel universe. If the theory is correct, we will not only have to completely redefine the principles of quantum physics, but also our entire worldview. Dark photons could be much more than silent messengers of a hidden cosmos. They could prove to us that we create the world itself through observation. Are we really ready for the power of the invisible? A brand new study of quantum interference shows that dark photons could be the true architects of the universe. So in the darkness of the universe, a revolution could be brewing that literally eclipses everything that has come before. Dark photons are hypothetical particles that behave similarly to ordinary photons, but interact with dark matter instead of visible matter. You can think of it as if there were a secret language that only certain beings understand. And dark photons are the silent messengers of that language. Normal photons are like flashlights that illuminate everything we can see. Dark photons would then be like infrared rays that become visible through special glasses. They exist, send signals but remain invisible to our eyes. These particles could act in a shadow universe existing parallel to our normal universe. We cannot see this dark cosmos, but it constantly influences us. Dark photons would then also be like secret messengers of a hidden force that is not part of the four known forces. In addition to gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak interactions, we would be dealing with a fifth force. And if that is true, it would completely revolutionize our understanding of reality. Using highly sensitive experiments such as Mad Max, researchers search for traces of these dark light particles in the physical blueprint of the universe. Mad Max on the hunt for shadow light. Is our world really secretly shaped by dark photons? With the Mad Max magnetized disk and mirror action experiment, researchers want to investigate one of the greatest mysteries of modern physics, the existence of dark matter. It is said to make up more than 80% of the universe, but is not visible and has not yet been proven. As shadow light, dark photons would be excellent indicators of the real existence of dark matter. And what's more, dark light could act as an unknown force in the universe. Mad Max should not only confirm the existence of dark photons or axions, but also reveal traces of previously hidden structures. Finding a fifth force in the dark beyond the four known forces would not only be a technical masterpiece, but also a philosophical miracle. Mad Max would then prove that the invisible is not necessarily unreal. The hunt for light in the darkness is a complex and silent affair. Dark photons do not emit light, have no weight, but may interact with normal photons in the visible range. This interaction could leave a kind of kinetic trail, which researchers are hunting for. Mad Max is an ultra-sensitive research project developed in Heron, Germany to search for so-called axions, hypothetical particles that could theoretically be identical to dark photons and are also believed to be involved in a hitherto unknown fifth force. To detect these invisible particles, Mad Max uses a sophisticated system of stacked transparent disks in a strong magnetic field. Thanks to this configuration, it should be possible for dark photons or axions to transform into ordinary microwave photons. The noise that theoretically arises here is so minimal that we can hardly imagine it. With specially tuned fine detectors, researchers want to make the crackling of dark light in the cosmos audible nonetheless. Mad Max therefore operates in a far more subtle dimension than classic quantum experiments such as a double-slit experiment or the Bell test, which work with visible particles and clear interference patterns. While the double slit reveals wave-particle duality and the Bell test demonstrates the non-locality of quantum entangled particles, Mad Max goes one step further. It searches for particles that reveal themselves only through indirect traces. This so-called kinetic mixture is presumably an extremely weak coupling between dark and normal photons. The fifth force arises from the interaction or accompanies it. What this means exactly for our worldview is incredible. What is real? Observation, illusion, and the invisible. We are once again at the dawn of a new era. If dark photons do indeed exist, they not only represent a whole new class of particles, they also challenge our entire worldview. They are there without us being able to see or measure them directly. Their existence would mean that reality consists not only of what we observe, but also of what eludes our observation. This brings us back to central questions of quantum mechanics. Is a particle only real when it is measured, or does it exist in secret before measurement? Dark photons would then be evidence of a deeper structure, and a hidden reality. This idea must take us further, because then even what is visible to us will be only a small part of what really exists. Physics becomes an exciting frontier science between matter and mystery. If the actual structure of the cosmos moves in the invisible realm, that would explain why we have so many gaps in our science and worldview. Realistically speaking, in modern physics, we repeatedly encounter limits that cannot be overcome by more precise measurements or better models. Gravity still cannot be reconciled with quantum mechanics. Dark matter and dark energy supposedly make up over 95% of the universe, and yet we know very little about what they really are. And the behavior of particles such as neutrinos, which hardly interact with normal matter, remains a mystery. These gaps cannot be mere calculation errors. They are blind spots in our cosmic field of vision. They suggest that our physical models really only capture a fraction of reality. But what then is the rest? The assumption that 95% of our universe consists of invisible or dark components is already an indication that we must search in the dark. This is where the new study and the concept of a shadow universe come into play. A hidden plane of reality that exists parallel to ours but only communicates with it indirectly with dark photons as messengers. They are not visible, not tangible, but possibly perceptible. This brings us almost into the realm of magic. Because if the shadow universe really exists, our visible and measurable world will be nothing more than the shining surface of a much deeper and more complex cosmos. The power of the gaze, observation is a creative act. It sounds incredible, but if we follow the findings of quantum physics, we are all active co-creators of reality. Imagine that you are not neutral observers in this world experiencing your life as a series of coincidences, but instead are active participants in the events. The double-slit experiment shows that whether a particle appears as a wave or a point depends on whether and how we look at it. Applied to our everyday lives, this would mean that our view of the world helps determine what we experience and what we don't. Doesn't that sound crazy? Let's think about it a little further. If dark photons or axions only become visible through indirect effects but have an impact on our world and are messengers of the actual order, then our actual world originates there in the dark. For more than a century, our scientists have been observing the light of the universe and trying to understand its blueprint, its meaning, and its origin. But now, it appears that all origins lie in darkness and thus in the hidden realm. Our daily experience of existence in this world arises at the threshold where matter becomes visible, but it's very likely that it's also decisively influenced by the deeper layers. In this context, imagine that the shadow universe is not somewhere out there in the cosmos. It is right next to us and also within us. We ourselves are also an inseparable part of the universe. We consist of matter and light, and the shadow universe produces our bodies as well as possibly our consciousness. Have you ever thought about the fact that your feelings, thoughts, and inner images such as desires and visions are controlled by a force that functions in the same way as the dark layers of the universe? That these perceptions are the observer's reality, and that your behavior and inner attitude determine what happens to you every day. If this is the case and physics confirms this connection, we should all consider how we can shape reality to our advantage. On the threshold of the visible, the Higgs field, let's imagine a multidimensional world similar to that predicted by the string model. In this cosmos, invisible dimensions create the visible. We could take a detour into philosophy or mysticism and say that visible life springs from a dark dimension of the soul or spirit. The processes in the invisible 85% of the universe create a small visible part. Much like gigantic underground fungal fibers produce only a few visible mushrooms on the surface. At the threshold where life and creation become visible is the Higgs field. This is where particles gain their stability, allowing them to appear as particles in the world. Strangely enough, no one has yet found a stable process at this threshold. Rather, the stability of matter seems to arise from constant instability. Reality would then be more of a flicker than a solid state. We're used to evaluating and actively measuring our environment based on what we can see and touch. But if a hidden structure that permeates and shapes everything is a real conductor, then everything changes. At the threshold of measurement and visualization, the Higgs field is not only the origin of mass, but also the gateway to the dark parallel world. This shadow universe or subtle quantum whispering reacts to our emotions and desires. And with every action and every thought, you also form axions and dark photons. The effect we ourselves have on the dark field could go even deeper. It is possible that without being aware of it, We are penetrating deep into the lowest layers of the universe every moment, or even emerging there. Then the kinetic whispering of dark photons with normal photons would now also happen inside you and all around you. And in this crazy way, we are all part of a gigantic particle experiment. Subscribe to the channel now and be there for every new video.